Hey, what's up, gamers? Quick tutorial on how to create symbolic links. Now you're asking yourself, what is a symbolic link? Why should I create it? Oftentimes we have a problem when it comes to computers. It's speed versus cost. So here's a typical computer. This is my computer. You can see right here I have two drives, a C drive and a D drive. The C drive, that's my M2 drive. That's the high speed M2, super fast, super access speed. Everything's great. Problem with this drive, with the M2, with any other very large drive, is that it's 512 gigabytes, and it gets expensive to have large drives. Now, comparatively, I have my D drive, which a lot of gamers do, and I'll go ahead and include this. And as you can see, it's a 4 terabyte drive, much cheaper than the M2 drive for a lot more storage. But there's the dilemma. I got the super fast M2 drive, or SSD, depends which order you want to call it, but it's limited in size. But I have this huge platter drive that I can install all my games on, so I don't have to worry about uninstalling and installing and shifting things around. I just click install, it's done. So there's where we're looking at that compromise, and I'm going to show you how to use symbolic links for the best of both worlds, and explain what a symbolic link is and how easy it really is to do. Now, I'm going to show you a quick down and dirty how to do it. If you want to make it a little bit better, I'll show you how. Just a few tweaks here and there. So we start right here, and I go to my C drive. Now, I created an empty folder, and I called it Speed Drive. Call it whatever you want. Call it Booger Drive. I don't care. It's just name the folder. Now, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and there's this thing called a substitute drive letter, where you could give a drive letter, let's say in this example, the letter M, which corresponds to a folder path. So you would open up a command prompt and you would say substitute space, let's call it X drive for that folder. So then what it'll do is it'll show up as a drive on your left-hand side, so it makes it a little bit easier to access. Does it make anything different? No, it creates a new drive letter over here, and when I show you what we're going to be changing, then you could say whether I want to do it or not. But if you want, just do a quick Google search on the substitute command right here. You could do it. In this example, I'm not. Who knows? Maybe I'll come back and do it again. It's a new computer. I didn't set that up. I can. Who knows? So back to the down and dirty. What is symbolic drive, you're asking? What are these symbolic links that you're telling me so much? Just get to the damn point. Symbolic links. Okay. A symbolic link is basically a shortcut that the Windows OS could recognize where it redirects a request for a file in a certain folder, but that file actually lives in a different folder, or from one drive to the next. Okay. So here we have the speed drive right here, and you know that it's empty. So what we're going to do is I have these batch files, and what I do is I create two batch files. For each game, I wish to move from my platter drive back to my M2 drive. So what's in these? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the first one, which is this create batch file. You ready for how complicated this is? Boom. This is the batch file. And I'm going to walk through this so you can see what's going on within the Windows system. What I'm going to do is, in case I had this drive here before, and I did this before, it removes what was there previously. There's a certain order that you want to run it in. For example, we run this batch file when we want to create the symbolic links. And then when we're done, and let's say we're going to play another game for a while, and I don't want all of Overwatch to take up space on my M2 drive or my SSD, I then run this clean file, which then takes all the files that were being changed and updated on my local C drive and puts them back to the platter drive. So this one created says, hey, I expect this clean to have done, but I don't want anything left over. I want to start from a clear slate, so I'm going to remove a directory if it exists. These switches make sure that says, hey, don't prompt me, don't say, are you sure? It just does it. The next thing is I'm going to create an Overwatch folder in that speed drive. So if I go look at this speed drive. It's empty right now, so the first thing is I'm going to create this directory. I'm then going to copy all of the Overwatch folder that happens to be installed on my D drive using Xcopy and copy it over to my C drive. Now, how long does this take? On average, it should take maybe 5 minutes for Overwatch. I mean, it all depends on the size of the game, but it's that one-time hit. You do this once, and then every time you play this game, you're not going to have to worry about it. You only run this file to create the symbolic links, and then every time you want to play, it's already there. This is a one-and-done deal whenever you want to add a new game to your fast drive. So it's going to copy all the files over. It's going to take maybe about 5 minutes. The next thing it's going to do is go to the original source directory and rename that folder to this with a pre-link at the end. And the pre-link name, I won't get into too much detail. It just gives us a way where it makes, when we do the clean, we don't have to copy all the files back. We're actually just going to copy files that changed. Change files could be patches that got updated to it. It could be saved files. It could be anything else that happened to the game while it was on your SSD drive, on your fast drive. We want to take all those changes and bring them back. But I don't want to have to copy all the files back and forth. So what we're doing is just renaming. So what we did is we just copied, not moved, copied all of Overwatch game data to our fast M2 drive or solid state drive using this command. We then renamed the original file on your old drive, D drive, platter drive, whichever one you want to call it, and we put a suffix of pre-link next to it. The next line is the magic. It's all it is. Make link. That's the command. And we're going to tell it is make a link from this folder to point to this folder right here. And then pause. So we're going to take this and let me move this out of the way on the bottom right here. Let me bring up another window. And here's the window with the Overwatch command I have. So I have the Overwatch clean and the Overwatch create. The Overwatch create is this file right there. So let's go ahead and run this batch file. And you want to run as administrator because you need administrator rights in order to create this make link. Run as administrator. As you can see right here, the tool is going off and it's copying all those files. So it's executing this line right here. It's copying all Overwatch files over to my SSD drive in that folder called speed drive. So I'm going to pause this video and come back, and it's going to be maybe a couple minutes. And I'm back. You can see that it's done. In actuality, it took 1 minute and 20 seconds to copy all those files over. Not very long. As we can see right here, the symbolic link was created for it. So let's take a look in the directories and see what actually was done. So as we can see right here on my C drive, which is the fast M2, there's a new folder called Overwatch. And you can see all the Overwatch files are there. If I go look at my old directory, and let me pull that up. What you'll see is there's the original directory with all the files still in it. So here it is. All those files are still there. They're not moved. It's just renamed the folder. And here's this item, which is a shortcut. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why can't I just create a shortcut and be done with it? Shortcuts are not handled by the underlying OS the same way as symbolic links. A shortcut, when you try to launch an executable, especially games, if it encounters a shortcut, it's not going to link properly. The symbolic link is an OS call underneath the hood, so to speak, to the calling application, the executable. It thinks everything is where it originally was when it installed. Using the symbolic link is sort of like the under the hood trickery to fool the executable to think that it's running off the D drive where it installed, but the symbolic link is actually redirecting it over to the C drive. A shortcut doesn't give you that trickery. The shortcut is just on top of that. Therefore, the executable won't work. You could go ahead and give this a try for yourself and just like create a shortcut and run the shortcut, but all the files that it points to is still going to be on your D drive. It's not going to redirect all the calls in the program to the correct folder. It's going to say, up, can't find this file, up, can't find this file, because the symbolic link covers everything underneath that folder. A shortcut doesn't. A shortcut just gets you to the folder. A symbolic link makes linkages for all the files. So if we look at the Overwatch, when I double click on it, it thinks these files exist in D, but they actually are existing over here. And how do I know this? Watch this. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. And I'm going to call this wow, 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 wow. So now I'm going to come over here, and there's my new folder, wow, 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 wow. So I'm going to delete this folder off of my C drive, delete, and I come over to the D drive, and it's gone. So the symbolic link looks like the file exists in the D drive. It looks like it's still there, but it's actually a representation of what's on the C drive. So when I launch this Overwatch.exe, it's not launching off the D drive. It's actually launching off the C drive, and I get all the benefits of an SSD speed over that. So all my loading time gets the SSD speed, not the platter drive. Transferring, loading into screen, Overwatch, the hero selection screen, boom, right there, instantaneous. I mean, it's just super fast compared to trying to load things off the platter drive. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details here because it's a lot of information, but in case you didn't know it, DirectX, DirectX 11, DirectX 12, I don't care what DirectX you're using, all the audio files used for DirectX, all the video card files, you know where all those files exist? Wherever you normally install them, it's usually on your C drive. So people that say, well, I'm going to install DirectX on my D drive or somewhere else, understand there's so many OS calls being done, it keeps coming back to your C drive anyways. So people say, well, I need to try to enhance my running my game even more. Well, you have to understand where these files are coming from. There's more to the game than just the game files, because you have DirectX calls which are accessing files on your computer. The game is calling DirectX libraries. Where are those libraries? On your computer. It's accessing them in real time. So it's going to your C drive. So there's more than just the game. What you want to do is try to get as much on that fast drive as you possibly can. So what does this mean? That means that when I launch this game right here, and I can bring up my game, and there's my gamer tag, thank you very much. I hit play. This play still thinks it's on the D drive. My settings still thinks that this is on the D drive. If I go to my settings and I go to, where is it going to? I can't remember where that's at. Game settings? Game install update. It still thinks everything is on my D drive. And according to the OS, it still thinks it's there. The only difference is, see that little icon? That's a symbolic link which then forces it over to my C drive. So when I launch the game, it's going to be super snappy. Now, I could leave this there for months. I could leave this here for years. I don't care. But let's say, you know what, I'm done with Overwatch. You know what I mean? Some of the good players have left Overwatch. There's a newer and better game out there. I don't want my Overwatch game to take up room anymore on my C drive. So here's this Overwatch clean. And you can see here's my speed drive right here, which says the Overwatch. So I'm going to go ahead and run as administrator. And boom, it's done. How long did it take? 2 seconds, right? So what happens? That file is gone right there. I see over here my Overwatch is back again. It no longer has the suffix associated with it, and all the files are there. Now, how did this happen? Let's go ahead and show you what's going on in the background in the batch file. That's it, guys. This is it. I mean, this isn't rocket science. So what I did was I copied the files from the C drive. I put them back in the original folder. Now, what do these switches mean? Well, you could go online and look at what all these switches actually represent. But in short, what it does is it only copies files that are changed. So what it does is it looks at all the files that are in here, and it compares the file, and I think it's done by date. I have to double check. I think that's what this /d does. It looks and says, hey, has this file changed between this two? That means, did a patch get it applied, and did the file date change? If the answer is yes, it copies it back into the original installation folder, just like you downloaded the update. And this /y means to inhibit prompts. This /q says, don't show me all the files, just do it. I don't want to see a listing of all the files, just do it in there. And -d says, only copy back files that changed. And then when it's done, it removes that directory right here. It removes this, which is that symbolic link. That's that symbolic link that was created. It then renames this pre-link folder, which has all the source code data in originally, the source code files, and it just renames it to just its original Overwatch. And then last thing is I remove that directory off of my local speed drive. So when I run that batch file, I can notice that the speed drive is now empty right here. I could go back to my original installation folder. You no longer see that shortcut. You no longer see the pre-link suffix on this, because now I could still go and run the game and it'll still run. My game will still run if it's on the D drive. Now, granted, my load screens will be slower. My load into the hero selection screen is going to be slower. All that's going to slow down, but I don't care. If I want everything to speed up, then what I could do is come over here, and using these batch files, I could create this for any game I want. You can see I have Vermintide, Dota 2, I have my DDO. Yes, I still play DDO. Company of Heroes 2. So what I do is I take my games that I want off my D drive and I move them over to my C drive. Now, you could, in theory, try a program, and let's see if I have that installed. Let me go to my library and software. And there it is. It's called DIM drive. You could go and install this DIM drive, and what it does is, instead of creating a folder on your C drive and goes there, it goes and creates a RAM drive based out of how much memory you have. So let me bring that up real quick. So I look at this one right here. I have 32 gigs of memory installed on my main system. Using DIM drive, I could take 16 gigabytes of memory and put that into a separate drive, and then copy game files, just like I did using the batch files, into that RAM drive. What's bad about that? Well, there's a few bad things about it. If for some reason your computer shuts down, whatever data you have in that RAM drive is lost, because it's made out of RAM. So there's no maintaining that information between restarts. So unless you know to go back and say, okay, unload it from RAM drive, you might lose patches, you might lose save games, you might, do some bad stuff there. Now, is RAM much faster than an M2? Most certainly. But the problem with going to a RAM drive, like I said before, is you can lose data, but you still have all the OS calls going back to the C drive for all the supporting libraries, like DirectX. So even though you move the entire game library onto memory, a RAM drive, the game is still calling DirectX audio libraries. It's still calling DirectX video libraries. It's still calling DirectX file access libraries. And where are all those DirectX files located at? On your C drive. So do you get a performance? The difference between running a game off of an SSD versus running it off the RAM is really minimal. In everyday use, it's going to be minimal. If you don't like batch files, you could do DIM drive, because I think the latest version, or at least they were trying to put it in the latest version, allows you to create a folder like I did here, speed drive, so you could actually move files back and forth by using their graphic interface. Sure. Spend the money and use it. I don't know if that feature's in there. For me, looking at it, once I had a chance to look at it, and if you want to download these files, I could put up some sample right here. You can see here's the create. This is the batch file. How many lines is that? 5 lines of code. I have an extra space in there. 5 lines of code. 4 lines of code. Yeah, I don't need to spend $19. I mean, the reason why I did buy this because I never knew about symbolic links. The whole idea of making symbolic links was new to me. I never knew it existed. Once I figured out what this guy was doing, and I researched symbolic links, and I was like, oh, easy. So if you want a platter drive and a fast M2, and you want the best of both worlds, create these little batch files for you, create the symbolic links, and have fun. And whether the game is running off a symbolic link off of your local C drive, or you remove the symbolic link, you don't have to make any changes whatsoever. Oh, I just lost internet access. You don't have to remain whatsoever. You could still play the game. I could play it with the symbolic link or remove the symbolic link, and it still plays just fine. So that's how you make symbolic links for games. A simple little batch file to run them, and you get great performance running off your C drive without filling up your C drive with all your games or having to install, uninstall, move drives, change your installation directory for Steam. You don't need to change installation directories. Have fun with it.